Greetings. Welcome to the post Armageddon Anglican Unscripted episode 257. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And today's November 2016.
Okay, greetings, George. Welcome back. George had a little illness at the beginning of the week, so we didn't record our Monday show, and I tried to do some live stuff with Peter where we did a live feed about the election because he's a statistician and he loves numbers, and that was a lot of fun. And now we
Except he was all wrong. Kevin, let me just say, I'm not a statistician. I took statistics in college 25, 30 years ago. Hated the course. Who picked Frank Griswold? Who picked Catherine Jefferts Schori? Who picked Michael Curry? Who picked Justin Welby? And who picked Donald Trump?
Nobody knows. Well, I did pick Catherine Jefferts Schori in the press pool. I put her name in, and I won because I didn't know who she was, and nobody else picked her, so I put the name down. One in a million.
Not that I'm going to toot my own horn, but hey, who else is going to do it if I don't? My mother-in-law certainly won't. Do it. Right. She still tells me there's time for me to go to law school. But Kevin, I'm not a statistician. I'm not a political scientist. I'm not a sociologist. Mm-hmm. But I do listen to people, and I could sort of sense a mood and. Oh, I was reading again and again and again. Oh, how this is going to be a landslide. Donald Trump is going to decimate the Republican Party. Everybody down ticket is going to lose. There's going to be a repudiation of the whole Trump thing because he's such an evil person. And I don't know where these people are living. But they're certainly not living amongst the hoi polloi, the people of the community.
Before we go any further,
there was a sense that Trump was inevitable.
For the sake of our viewers, I need to interrupt you. Either your foot or your hand is having a thumping contest where your microphone is. So,
I am trying to make emphasis.
You're doing fine, really. I'm getting the point, George. All right. So, interesting results, and the country is doing what it does every time. There's an election. There's a small element that is not happy. They're out doing the protests and riots. And
Kevin, I have seen on Facebook. Did you know that Donald Trump is secretly a Muslim, and he was not born in the United States?
Of course
now,
not.
I can't
unconfirmable
substantiate that, but I am seeing that, and there are going to be people marching this weekend saying no to Donald Trump. He's not our president. There was fraud, and
but it happens every time. And people forget, and this is what the wisdom I always say is it's a pendulum, not a metronome of American politics. Every couple of years we get this, it's going all right, it's going all left. It's going all right, it's going all left. And it's the way it works. You never have a dead pendulum where it's always the middle. The Republicans have swept in the office. Oh, the Democrats have swept in the office. The Republicans are decimated. That's American politics 101. Wait 4 or 8 years, and the other side is going to reassemble an incredible machine, and they're going to win. And that's how it works here, George.
I don't understand these people who are so emotionally devastated by the election. I really don't. True, I can admit to being, as a child, I was really hurt when Gerald Ford lost to Jimmy Carter. I thought the world was going to end.
It did.
I grew out of that and went on to 3rd or 4th grade, I think. But, God is in charge. God loves fools. God loves drunks in the United States of America, and we will do okay.
Yeah.
And I did not share my political preference with the congregation. I mean, you know my preferences, Kevin, and I think people can sort of divine that I'm on the conservative side of things. But I did not get involved in this election the way some people did. And you see the phenomena of evangelical leaders all of a sudden finding that 90% of evangelicals ignored their sage wisdom and counsel. So these guys look like fools. Or then you've got these people saying that, Hillary Clinton is an evil Satanist and that John Podesta is performing black magic masses. Where do they get this stuff?
I do have advice for all future generations and political parties. When it comes to the November election for our president, it is going to always be about policy, not character. I don't make up the rules. It's just the way it works. And whoever is going to articulate their policy the best, Obama, a great articulator, Reagan, a great articulator. Yeah, he had character too, but still, they articulated and so when you went to the poll, you knew, yes, you're voting for a character, but the chiefness behind it was, I want the policies. Yeah.
And Kevin, I mean, our county went 68% for Donald Trump, 28% for Hillary Clinton. And no one I know people across the spectrum here, and in my congregation there are Trump supporters and Clinton supporters. Nobody I know who's backing Donald Trump thinks that he's an angel. But just as they don't care that their heart surgeon has been married 5 times, they want a good heart surgeon. They don't care about his personal life. So people want the government to be run efficiently. But the government is not God. It's not some idol that we worship. It's just a service provider. And so long as the mail's delivered and the Social Security checks arrived and the Russians are kept outside the country.
You're still doing this, George.
I'm making emphasis. Okay.
You're making a bass beat,
Okay.
Well, it's interesting. One of my daughters, the older one, my eldest child, is liberal. I don't know how it happened. And I was explaining to her one day, she listens to everything said about each candidate. And I said, you have to understand, Hillary is not as bad as the Republicans say, and Trump is not as bad as the Democrats say. There's probably maybe in the first 25% of what they say, there's truth to it. Yeah, he's not a winner. He's not somebody that I would want you to show up and say, guess who proposed to me? And probably the same on the other side. And that's just the way it is. You want to make yourself better than the other when you're trying to run, and sometimes that includes making them look really bad. It's how politics work.
Well, Kevin, I have a little bit of experience. I'm trying not to hit the desk, Kevin. I'm not going to make emphasis noise with my
We're going to put a pillow on your desk so you just whack away.
The New York Times about 6-7 months ago went through and dredged through all of Donald Trump's life looking for women to come out and tell them that he sexually harassed them. Mm-hmm. And the New York Times was looking for these people, and they didn't find anybody. And then, immediately before the election, you get these people who say, Donald Trump molested me in an airplane in front of 500 other people, and the press is acting like... Now, from a newspaperman's perspective, are you telling me that the New York Times is so incompetent that they couldn't find any of these people who just happened to sort of self-identify in the weeks immediately before the election? Yeah. And on the other side, all this... like with Obama, that he's a secret Muslim, that he was born in Kenya, that, you get these things that people just get so wound up with, and because it's repeated ad nauseum, they soon believe it. I've actually met Donald Trump in person years ago.
Well, now you're coming out of the closet. I did not know this. Were you playing Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2? Did you walk through the hallway of the Trump hotel?
No. Well, I met him not one-on-one, but
okay.
I met him with some others in a social event and social occasion. Gosh, this is going back 20-odd years.
Wow.
Charming, lovely, affable man. He's not the monster. He's not the uncouth ogre that people paint him to be. I've never met...
Nor is Hillary. Let's be fair.
Well, I've never met Hillary Clinton, but I can only speak to Donald Trump, who's actually, in his private conversation, a nicer person than the public persona being painted of him. Now, granted, Nobody in their right mind goes on the Howard Stern show and thinks that they're not going to come off looking vulgar. So, but I don't think anything was thinking in his head about 10 years ago that he was going to be in the running for president. Well,
No.
that's a lesson to you.
Yes, it is. So I got well, yeah, I'm going to run for president. You're saying I got to go the straight and narrow just for a president run, huh? Okay.
Well,
Well,
look what it. But Kevin, look what it did for Mitt Romney. Absolutely nothing.
yes,
The
and that's why I
guy
wanted to
is
go to
as straight
character,
as
not
Ward
policy.
Cleaver, and
Oh
it
my
didn't do
gosh.
him anything.
That's why I was
Uh,
talking about it's not character, it's policy. Okay, George, we didn't want to do the whole show of politics, and we're not. Well, kind of. Now we're going to move to church politics. And we're going to talk about something we gave a hint to in our last show. We talked about news coming out of Egypt. And we're going to talk a little bit about something that happening to the churches of Menir Nice. A lot of bloggers have covered this. I saw a couple of Facebook posts. And what's happening is there's other church organizations in Egypt, and one has been able to legally take over some properties that belong to Menir Nice's Anglican. Am I got it wrong? What's
okay.
well? Give it a brief background here.
In Egypt, there's the
Yeah,
Anglican Diocese of Egypt. There's
right.
also the Egyptian Council of Churches, ECA, Egyptian Church Association, which is akin to our national organization of churches or World Council of Churches. It's an umbrella group. And Egypt, and there has been a great deal of noise recently about this ECA trying to do a hostile takeover of the Diocese of Egypt. Yes and no. It's being overblown, and some bloggers and some people are sort of making great deal more out of this than is actually the case. I Last week was a memorial for the 60th anniversary of the Suez Crisis. Anybody
Mhm.
remember what that was? That's when England invaded Egypt to take over the Suez Canal.
Correct.
Guess what Nasser did after the Suez Crisis? He basically nationalized the Christian churches that had any foreign links to them.
That is
Like,
correct.
because up until that time, all the clergy in Egypt who were Anglicans were English. Well,
Mhm.
the English were the bad guys.
They were the invaders. Yeah,
And the church was sort of shuffled by a government fiat into this into this Egyptian Church Association, so as to basically nationalize it. Well, time goes on and everything's fine, and the Egyptian Church ordains its own clergy, and by the 1970s, it's wholly indigenous. Bishops, priests, parishioners, they're no longer English expats. It's a church made up of Egyptian nationals.
in fact, if you meet Menir Nice, and I hope one day you do, he's a wonderful bishop and leader of the Middle East Church. Um, Not English at all.
And
No.
and the Egyptian diocese has been trying to get legal recognition
Mhm.
of its status so that it's no longer just lumped under the general heading of an Egyptian Protestant church, part of this umbrella group. And the government in Egypt has been slow, and we, Anglican Inc., I think we were the only people to report the outcome of the lawsuit way back in May.
That's right.
Well,
We did.
about
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, Munir Nice puts out a story through the Anglican Communion News Service announcing that an appeal is coming up, and the ECA is fighting them because they want to maintain control, and they may even try to take over their properties. And on November 2nd was the hearing and before the government, and a lawyer for the ECA came and fought against the Anglicans trying to get their own standing. And so the hearing was postponed, and both sides have issued statements and come up with their own history. The long and the short of it is, and Munir Anis sort of personally contacted Canterbury and the Anglican Consultative Council and the Pope, Coptic Patriarch, and the Roman Catholics, all asking for them to give their support to him.
Sure.
And so this is a legal battle, and eventually the Diocese of Egypt is going to win because its position in history and in law is very clear. Uh, but they didn't do the expedient of hiring the judge's nephew or to be.
And that's
Uh,
exactly what happened. The lawyer there works for people. Well, cronyism in Egypt, it happens.
long and the short of it is the Egyptians Anglicans are being hauled through the legal coals because the Egyptian legal system is not as smooth as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And Munir Anis, in his AC&S press release, put out an SOS to the Anglican world to help. And the Coptic Patriarch helped, and the Roman Catholics helped. And I called Lambeth Palace and asked, is he going to help? He who must not be named. And they said, he who must not be named is on vacation this week.
He was on vacation. When he gets back from vacation, did he help?
We will ask him next week. Next week comes, I ask. And in response, I get an email from the Anglican Consultative Council saying, well, we've already issued a statement. And I say, well, who is we? Are we the Anglican Consultative Council or the Lambeth Palace? Oh, we're the ACC. We don't know anything about the Archbishop of Canterbury. So, Kevin, now we move into commentary and the higher world of Anglican politics.
And it's an interesting thing because Munir Anis just semi-hosted the Global South, which included the ACNA, which included a lot of GAFCON, all of GAFCON. And they all got together. They put together a wonderful statement, which obviously the Archbishop of Canterbury read. And so everything after this Global South meeting seems to indicate that Archbishop of Canterbury has chosen not to fully support publicly those who were at the meeting. That's how I kind of see it.
Well, it could be, he was on vacation, and then he had to wash his hair when he got back. And then he had to go pick up the kid. Kevin, you and I can't film every day because we have to take the kids to school.
I understand that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but from a journalist perspective, he's not doing as much as he could. In fact, I was thinking strategically, if I were a GAFCON person, I would be writing the consulate, the Egyptian consulate in your country, supporting Munir Anis. And, it's not really going to do a lot internally, but publicly, it could probably have a grand effect for showing who really does support fellow GAFCON people.
Well, Global South people. Why is Munir Anis asking the Archbishop of Canterbury to intervene? Does he expect Justin Welby to be able to sort of negotiate a deal for him? No, he does not. He's not looking for any behind-the-scenes stuff. He's looking for another arrow to put in his quiver to hand to the Egyptian government and to say, look, we just can't be rolled over. We're not a bunch of nobodies who you can just treat badly. Look, here are people of substance around the world who are supporting our cause. So if you are the primate of Nigeria and you haven't written to the Egyptian ambassador to Nigeria saying we're concerned about this, or if you're a primate, let's get closer to home. We won't name names. Spend the 48 cents, fellas. Send a letter and then publish it on your website.
Yep.
In other words, GAFCON talks about being a replacement to the Anglican Consultative Council and these are the simple things that you need to do if you want to play in the big leagues.
These are the repetitive things that will go a long, long way to building long-lasting coalitions and partnerships in the brotherhood we call the Anglican Communion. Okay, we got to move quickly here. We've done the whole 17 minutes, but there's exciting news that we haven't talked about yet. The Southern Cone has elected a new primate. Oh, I can't say it that way. Because...
They bought a retread? Is that what?
No, they re-elected an awesome guy, and Greg Venables is now the re-elected...
Archbishop.
Is that primate? Archbishop.
He's the primate, but they used to call him the president bishop.
That's right.
Now
yes.
I believe now they when they changed their name, they changed the title, I believe, to archbishop. So I think he is truly now an archbishop.
Look how complicated. George and I just made an announcement. Greg Venables, the former...
See, he's been elected archbishop, but he's the former presiding bishop.
See, Archbishop Venables is now the new primate of the Southern Cone, with which he served before for many years with great distinction. And really, this is a wonderful thing for GAFCON, George.
It's a difficult thing for Greg Venables.
Sure, it's hard.
He doesn't need any more work. I mean, his province is it's growing, it's alive, it's vibrant, great things are happening. You're seeing, I mean, 3 bishops now in Peru because the church has taken off there. I
I
mean,
know, that's amazing.
it's,
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on in Northern? Well, great
Okay.
things are going on, and it is, it's easier to go from Buenos Aires to New York, and then back down to,
Buenos Aires. to anywhere within. Yeah.
In other words, you can't get there from here in most places in South America. So
True.
when he's our primate, he's got a lot of traveling to do. He's got, some governments are difficult, some are supportive. It's a minority church, but it's a tremendous job. And then he has his GAFCON responsibilities. But from our George's selfish perspective, this is a wonderful thing because Greg Venables is not and will not be rolled by the English establishment.
He also has Mother Church clout.
Yes.
Okay, there's nothing better than being an Englishman in this argument, in this discussion, in this church. Anglican means of England. To have somebody of his caliber of strength, his caliber of faith, his caliber of, you said not being rolled, you can't beat that. Yeah.
See, he has a foot in both. He has equal foot in both camps. In other words, he is a bona fide primate of a church in the developing world. He's not merely an Englishman abroad. He has lived most of his life in South America. And so he knows the culture, he knows the people. He's a bona fide representative, he's one of them. At the same time, he is from England. And so when the primates meet and those for whom English is a second language hear Justin Welby speak and hear the ACC people speak, and they say, well, we think that sounds okay. He can basically say, no.
That's right. Yeah.
He was extraordinarily effective at the Alexandria Primates meeting, which I believe was the last one that he
fall one, yeah.
Last one he attended. And he really will be a cogent, vibrant voice. He's also a great friend of the AMIE in England. This is really from an international perspective. The only loser in all this is Greg Venables, because now his workload has just gone up tenfold.
Yeah, but he's the guy, if you call, he'll say yes. Interesting. We're going to close the program out with this. Next time you see Archbishop Venables, have him do a Sean Connery impression. It's to die for. Okay, on to our weekend, George. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 257 of Anglican Unscripted.